Why the Prince of Monaco and his wife spent their wedding night in separate beds. It was the European wedding of the decade, but the bride tried to run away and barely held back the tears. The honeymoon had to be delayed, and the newlyweds spent their first night 10 miles away from each other. Prince Albert was set to marry Charlene Wittstock on July 1, 2011. Before the big day, news broke that Charlene had tried to make a run for it. Apparently, she found out shocking news. Albert allegedly had a third love child during their courtship. In 2005, he admitted to fathering a son with a stewardess. Alexander Grimaldi Coast was born in 2003. Albert had a 6-year affair with his mother, Nicole. Prior to this, he had also fathered a daughter, Jasmine. Her mother filed a paternity suit in 1992. Jasmine was raised outside of the royal family. Albert didn't acknowledge her until 2006. In 2011, Albert denied that there was a new love child, but his bride was so upset that she attempted to flee Monaco. Charlene made not one, not two, but 3 attempts. Attempt 1. While in France, for a bridal gown fitting, Charlene sought refuge at the South African embassy. Attempt 2. During Monaco's Grand Prix. But attempt 3 was the closest she came to succeeding. The wedding was 2 days away. Charlene booked a one-way ticket to South Africa. She almost made it to the airport in Nice. Then the prince's entourage caught her. They stripped her of her passport and cut a supposed deal. Charlene could leave once she gave Albert a legitimate heir. His love children couldn't inherit the throne. The princess would go on to call it all a lie. But she was nicknamed Prisoner Bride for a reason. Charlene and Albert had a $55 million 3-day wedding. July 1st and 2nd were declared national holidays. VIP guests included Karl Lagerfeld and Naomi Campbell. Charlene wore a gown by Giorgio Armani. It featured 40,000 Swarovski crystals. But reporters and guests noticed that the bride was sad. After laying her bouquet, she emerged with a trembling lip. Charlene had a tear rolling down her cheek. Albert whispered to her,
"Don't cry, don't cry."
Charlene dabbed her tears with a handkerchief. Some outlets reported that she cried throughout the ceremony. She even recoiled when the groom leaned in for a kiss. But the worst part was yet to come. Albert and Charlene honeymooned in Durban, South Africa. First, they met President Jacob Zuma. Then they left the meeting in separate vehicles. They were staying at 2 different hotels. Albert at the Hilton and Charlene at the Oyster Box Hotel, over 10 miles apart. As it was claimed, Albert had an early meeting the next day. He didn't want to risk getting stuck in traffic by staying outside the city. Practical, but what about Charlene? Why didn't she just stay with him at the Hilton? The palace source didn't say. It turns out that this wasn't their first attempt at a honeymoon. The first one was just a few weeks after their wedding. But Albert was still caught up in a love child scandal. He flew back from South Africa to take a DNA test and clear his name.